So how do you heal? How do you create a secure attachment style? And for that, you first of all need to understand that when you're a child, you come into this world and you're basically holding up a bowl towards your parents. And this bowl wants to be filled with love and attention and patience and support, emotional support, financial support, and all kinds of things. And that's a birthright that this bowl is being filled. But potentially, in your life, this bowl didn't get filled properly. And you're holding up this bowl towards your parents, and you waited. And you waited, and you're still waiting. And what you haven't noticed yet is that you're right now an adult. Still an adult, standing here with this bowl that is not properly filled. And you started to even fill this bowl yourself, maybe with distraction, maybe with just pretending to be happy, maybe you even filled it with alcohol, all kind of things. And you're still though hoping, there's still this hope towards your parents that somehow maybe they might change. So maybe there's still this hope, there's still, feeling a bit depressed and sad about it. There's still this disappointment why they're not doing it. There's maybe still a lot of the sadness. Maybe they're already dead, your parents. It could also be, and you're simply sad about the fact that nobody filled the bowl, and you're standing up here waiting until somebody is filling the bowl. With all those bottled up emotions, maybe even anger, sadness, depression, all kind of things. And you try to fill it yourself with unhealthy things. It's just a simplified example right now, but that's you. And what you haven't understood is that you're an adult. You don't need your parents to fill this bowl. You can fill this yourself by loving yourself, being kind to yourself, managing yourself, getting a loving partner, creating a family by yourself. You can fill this bowl now yourself. And that's what you first of all need to understand. You can take action and you can fill this bowl. And you don't need to fill anything unhealthy in here. You can fill this with love and attention and emotional support and financial support yourself. You can take care of yourself today. That's the very first step. And I would like to share 4 examples how you can overcome and heal your attachment style. Just take those 4 examples like books, and you walk through a library and you just pick whatever you like. What you don't like, you just leave it. The very first point is to make sense of your childhood. To a degree we did this already, and I want you to though dive deeper, reflect on your childhood, think about this, let go of the suppression and idealization of your childhood, and really understand what happened there. Make sense of that. Make sense of why you are the way you are. Oh, true, I do inhibit a lot of my aggression, and it makes sense because in my childhood I always got punished if I stand up for my needs. If I'm also getting angry and I'm showing anger, then I could never show this, so I learned to suppress that. Makes sense. That's why probably it is that way. And I want you to do a lot of this work. Simply make sense of things. Why are things the way they are? People really underestimate how much is happening psychologically. It's like a digestive process. And maybe throughout this process, a lot of emotions come up, maybe sadness, maybe anxious thoughts, and maybe even anger. Often, anger is a good emotion. Depression is more about going back, sadness, and then anger is suddenly standing up for yourself. I don't accept that anymore. I want it different. So often, not always, but often anger is even a great emotion that is coming up throughout this process. But make sense of why the things are the way they are. Then you can also do some inner child work. The idea here is that you experienced some sort of trauma. Trauma is Greek and it simply means wound. So you experienced some emotional wound that you're still having, that haven't healed properly yet. And the idea of inner child work is that healing comes when you meet your wounded places with compassion. So you can do this with coaching, therapy, you can do this with visualizations, and you basically go back in time and you meet this little child that has been you. You can do this in different ways. For example, you have a visualization there, go back in time, talk to this little kid, give it a hug, and basically give love and compassion to that little child that experienced this emotional wound. That's also quite some work that I do with clients together, that we actually go through that. We make first of all sense of it, then we do some inner child work. And that also is a process. You don't just do this once and then you just cry once and then it's fine. It's a process over weeks and sometimes even months. And that's, again, the emotional digestive process. Another interesting tool is confrontation. So I want you to face your fears. If you tend to be, for example, more anxiously attached, great. I challenge you to set your boundaries, to stand up for yourself, to share your needs, to create a hobby and start a hobby that you can do on your own. Do something on your own. Think about, what do I want? And how can I share this with other people around me? How can I share my boundaries and be authentic and not just please everybody else all the time? If you're more avoidantly attached, great. I challenge you to cultivate more of this emotional connection. Have eye contact with your partner. If your partner's crying, be there for them. Be close, emotionally open up. You're feeling that you're distant with your emotions. Try to get a little closer emotionally. Be there. Don't try to push others away. Be comfortable with it. Confront yourself with that fear. If you tend to more have an anxious avoidant attachment style, communicate your thoughts, communicate your feelings. And if you want to push away again before you pull again, stick it out, stay with it, be comfortable with it, and basically confront your own fears. That will also improve your attachment style, and you slowly become more securely attached because you're learning, oh great, all that fear that I was having, that's actually not too reasonable. And I actually can stand up for myself and people still love me. I actually can come closer emotionally and people still love me, and it's okay. I don't need to push people away before I pull them again. It will be fine. I am fine. And that's a so-called corrective experience. And you notice, oh great, I don't need to be like that. I don't need to be afraid of that. And that calms you down and it makes you more securely attached. And this idea of a corrective experience also applies to the last point, which is a relationship. Have a healthy relationship. I know not everybody is securely attached. You don't need to fully find a person that is 100% securely attached. Not sure whether this even exists, but have a relationship in where you feel like you can be yourself and your partner evokes more of the secure attachment style within you. And you can openly talk about issues and things, you can reflect together on a relationship, you can share thoughts and fears, and you basically learn there is somebody that sticks with me, there is somebody that loves me. And that is a corrective experience as well. Because all that trauma is coming from the fear of not being loved, fear of not being good enough. And then there's somebody who shows, because he's still there, he still loves you, that you are being loved. And that again also calms you down, that heals your emotional wounds, and you learn I am fine. And that makes you over time more securely attached. Now, what you don't want to do is you don't want to prove your father wrong, you don't want to prove your mother wrong. This idea of, I just need to be successful and prove them wrong, or I need to do this and then I prove something to my parents and then they will see. This is not going to work. If you have this fantasy, it's fine, but keep it as a fantasy and notice that you're having this fantasy. That's a very risky bet. First of all, you need to prove something. Maybe you need to become successful. Great. When, first of all, will you be successful? What's the definition of that? And will you even be at this point? That's a risky bet. And if you give full proof that you are good enough in some way, will your parents accept that? Probably they won't. It's just a risky bet. It's just trying you to act out, and you're not focusing on what's actually here, which is the little child that is simply hurt and just wants to be loved. And you don't need to do something, perform something, become successful or anything to prove anybody wrong and then get some love from others. This is not going to work. The key lies within you. You don't need anybody. You don't need your mother. You don't need your father. You don't need that person that not properly, perfectly took care of you. You don't need them to heal yourself. And by the way, every child has some sort of emotional wound, which is even a trauma. Every child has some sort of trauma and emotional wound. I don't care how evolved you are, whether you're a psychologist or not, you will not, as a father or as a mother, be capable to always, over 10, 20 years, give your child what the child needs. There will be disappointment involved. Life kicks in, maybe somebody's getting sick in the family, and that gives the child a certain feeling. It's also often about the interpretation of the child, how they perceived it. So it doesn't matter what kind of family you're growing up with. There will be some stuff that you're carrying around life and you can work on. But again, you can do that. And you don't need other people to heal. I mean, yes, it's helpful, of course, to have a loving relationship, to have loving people around you, to even have a great relationship with your parents. That's very helpful, and to a degree we need that, but you're not dependent on this one person that you need to prove, or one person that can finally give you that love and then you're good enough. That's what you don't need.